ATP, what it do with your boy Clayton Rain, back at you guys with another one. This one, segment 2 here, new name to the show right here. You saw it as Read the Room before, but we made some changes. It's going to be Read the Ring, all right? This will be episode 2 right here, man. Real interesting conversation to have today on the back end of Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Rumors circulating that there's an announcement that is going to be made. I don't know if it's been in an official capacity yet, but it looks like we're going to see these guys do it in May 2nd. And if I'm hearing it's going to be on Netflix. Without a doubt, we're seeing a resurgence of boxing in America at this point, as we're watching networks that seemingly moved out of the conversation of boxing and weren't interested in the sport anymore. It wasn't making money. The American fan base was not a strong fan enough to justify these networks being involved in the conversation. Well, without a doubt, there's a turn going on in that perspective, right? The conversation now is moving on to where does and who is going to get what fights, as Netflix has been in the business now. Amazon Prime has gotten involved in it. Obviously, the Zone has always been there. Skybox is doubling back now to do business in the boxing space. ESPN is even rumored to potentially be back into negotiations with ESPN. And of course, now that you got Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao showing interest, does Floyd feel like right now is the time to come back and get his paydays? Why all the interest? And I think it's an interesting conversation to have, right? Watching Dana White do what he does and what he's been doing, but now in boxing, it looks like it's brought a lot of interest back into space. So we're going to have a little interesting conversation on this one. Let's get some perspective on this one. Of course, before I go any further, man, let me go ahead and bring up my guy, co-host on the regular show, Angelo Reyes, in the building. Salute, Angelo. What's good with your family? What's good?
Woo!
What's good with you, man?
Nothing like a black man and a Filipino man.
Talk some boxing.
I was gonna say nothing moves the needle in the boxing space like a black man and a Filipino man going at it with the creative Manny Pacquiao right behind me and Floyd Mayweather right behind you. But I'm excited about this, right? I've been asked, hey, Angelo, what do you think about this? And you and I always say to our audience, our replay gang, our mainstream casual sports fans that listen to the show, to get the info and the details of what's actually going on in the space of boxing, right? But I always tell you guys that the best podcasts that me and Claymore have are the ones we have in private, right? So this is just a little glimpse of our conversation as to when the Floyd Mayweather Manny Pacquiao dropped on the Netflix advertisement. So Netflix promoting it. Netflix puts it out on all of their social medias, right? September 19th, which is the weekend. It's funny because Mexican Independence Day week for 2026 is on a Wednesday. The rumor has already been that Canelo Alvarez, with his new promotional group, is fighting in Riyadh Promotions. And we heard about how Brandon Figueroa is maybe going to be there, maybe fight Shushu Carrington. But if that fight now has to happen the weekend before September 16th, right? Because the weekend of Mexican Independence Day after September 16th is Floyd Money Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. And let us not forget that for a number of years, Floyd Mayweather controlled Cinco de Mayweather and the September Mexican Independence Day weekend. Floyd always made it a point to do it that way. You remember the Medina fights, right? Like he would always do this. So now Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao 2, 49-year-old Floyd Mayweather, 47-year-old Manny Pacquiao. Do they still have it? Do they not? And that's going to be a lot of the conversation when you guys listen to a lot of the different spaces. And me and Claymore will have that too. We'll have that talk because we need to see what Floyd looks like when he does his exhibition with Mike Tyson. That's supposed to be in Africa coming up here in a couple of months. And then Manny Pacquiao is doing an exhibition with his old sparring mate and stablemate, Ruslan Providnikov. And that's going to be here April 18th, I think, in Las Vegas. I'm not sure which networks are showing those yet. Exhibitions again, exhibitions. But from what I'm understanding, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather counts against the records, right? So right off the bat, interest level. Everyone's interested in this. And the first thing I throw right back at you, Clay, is what do you think about this? Because I think everyone's interested to see if Floyd Mayweather finally gets that O to disappear. I think there's a group of space out there that believes that.
I agree. I think that's the intrigue here. Everybody's wanting to see Floyd Mayweather take that L. And obviously that fight already happening before was lackluster, didn't really deliver. I remember very vividly how that fight went as far as Manny Pacquiao's shoulder supposedly having some issues in that fight, and he couldn't let his hands go. Just a lot of, closure that wasn't there, right? The closure wasn't there at the end of that fight. Floyd definitely won that fight. I think a lot of people still would pick Floyd going into this fight. Without the activity, though, that could skew a little bit of what people are looking at going into this fight, and Manny Pacquiao being the more active fighter between the both of them. So, and he's fought fighting Mario Barrios, championship level boxing, almost walked away with that title. Maybe he's built a little momentum for himself as well. But I do think it's interesting that, and people are going to be intrigued, man. The space, if the space could get intrigued with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, or Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, they're going to be intrigued with this one. In so many ways, it's almost evenly matched as far as like the ages that they are, the pedigree that they bring to the table. It's almost like these are the fights that make more sense than young and Jake Paul versus a aged Mike Tyson, or a small Jake Paul versus a oversized Anthony Joshua. This fight makes more sense. I think it will get the attention on it. It will pull the eyes on the sport. But without a doubt, for me, the big elephant in the room is, wow, Netflix really trying to figure out where their position is going to be in the boxing space. And you're seeing Paramount, who also doubled back, who left the PBC, got out of boxing after they bought Showtime. And we didn't think we were going to see them back in the sport, right? Because a lot of the consensus was that they didn't see the money in sports, period. But clearly, with the right motivation and the right leader, the right promoter behind it, they showing that they have been interested in the sport.
$100 million interested, Clay. $100 million a year interested.
7.7 billion with the UFC, right?
Right.
Into combat sports in general, but it seems like now, with hindsight being more 2020 than what we were trying to figure out while it was happening, that it wasn't the sport they weren't interested in anymore. Maybe it was the business practices that was a sport that they were getting away from, right? Tubi is even in the conversation. ESPN back in the conversation with Top Rank, seeing something different. Was Top Rank able to move things around in the business model that made it make sense more, to where now they can return to the table with ESPN, and now let's talk budget. Let's talk about another contract. What, 3 years, 5 years, 2 to 3 years, whatever the contract is. Let's give this one more shot, because we do believe in boxing, and the American fan base has elevated since the entry of Turki Al-Sheikh putting on these fights, since that performance with Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. The fans of boxing are here more than they've ever been. What do you think?
Right. No, and absolutely. And by the way, I want to make sure that our channel gives a huge shout out to Netflix. Shout out to all of you guys who have been wanting to support boxing. And yes, I understand how this space works, right? Especially in the casual mainstream space. They're gonna try to say, well, the only type of fights Netflix puts together are the ones that don't really matter. Jake Paul versus. Look, first of all, let me defend Netflix and say, if it wasn't for Netflix, we wouldn't have seen the height of Taylor versus Serrano. If it wasn't for Netflix, we wouldn't have gotten a chance to see Shushu Carrington grow, because Shushu was on that undercard of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, right? And Netflix has shown us some great fights. The last Zurdo Ramirez fight, there's a lot of quality fights. The all-female card last July was the very best females in the world all getting a chance to fight each other. So, guys, if you're a casual or mainstream fan and you don't understand that Netflix is for real in the business of boxing, because they now like the content that they're being given, then you need to grow up, all right? They're not giving you crappy fights. They're giving you fights that us in the boxing world, us boxing pundits, us boxing aficionados, we appreciate it, and we appreciate Netflix putting in their money. And I believe that Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao will not only be, like you said, a very even fight. There's a lot of curiosity behind it, right? But the undercards, I think, are going to be great, right? You got Carmel Moten, you got Manny Pacquiao's, you got two sons, right? There's going to be a lot of different moving pieces and parts to this Netflix event. But I'm wondering, I saw UFC Noche, and UFC Noche as an event was not a moneymaker for Dana. He spent a lot of money along with Turkey Al-Sheikh to put together a one-off event that blew the socks out of everyone in terms of production. So much so, Claymore, that the TV networks actually got nominated and I think won a couple of awards for the production quality of UFC Noche. Do you think Dana White's going to be involved in this one? Because the sphere is very difficult to profit off of because it costs so much money to put a fight together in that space. But production, I mean, am I going to hear that this is in conjunction with Floyd Mayweather, who we know is no longer working with Al Heyman, and Manny Pacquiao, who we know is kind of doing his own thing? Are we going to hear Dana White TKO Group be a part of this Netflix event? What do you think?
Yeah, man, I think it's going to bring everybody to the table. And I think it's just the space has become way more competitive. You know what I mean? And because of that, it's good business. The free market is playing itself out. And that's what happens in the free market, right? They got away from it and they put the litmus test out there. They allowed Turkey to move around in the space, and they saw, once again, I think Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez is a big needle mover in this conversation. I think what they were able to put together at Allegiant Stadium really put some perspective on the possibilities of what this can be if it's done right, right? And that's what the main thing is. It's about if it's done right. It's not just going to do it by itself. It's not a turnkey situation. But if you put the right execs in the right position, you can see this turn over profits. You can see this become one of the top 3 sports in the country again. And boxing lives in America and always has lived in America. And that's what they saw. They saw, wow, look at the possibilities. And now you're going to see a lot of these networks revisiting this conversation. Let's talk about it some more. Let's figure things out. Turkey is going to be in a lot of these conversations because he's moving around trying to find the right space. The Zone right now is the home of boxing to a degree, but there's still the elephant in the room of $45 a month, right? There's still that elephant in the room on their ability to deliver that amount of pay-per-views that make that $45 a month cost effective. It's just there. But Turkey brings the vision, Dana brings the vision, and that vision brings optimism, I think, from these networks. Like, right. So you guys really think you can make this happen? Yeah, I think we can make this happen. And I think with the right push, we can see boxing on this next generation usher in a true golden era to where TV networks, or it's kind of like all apps nowadays, but that kind of experience, that kind of feeling is delivered to the space. And I think we'll grow the sport, and we'll see more stars, future stars coming out of this, man. Without a doubt, there's an interest. There's an interest right now that wasn't there before.
Absolutely, Claymore. And we're in the streaming world. We're in the streaming services world nowadays, right? So when we're saying free to access TV, what we're really talking about is people already own Netflix, right? You're already getting Netflix because of the shows or whatever it is, the Squid Games or whatever it was you were watching. You're already getting Netflix. Same thing with Paramount Plus, right? Shout out to Landman and Mobland and Mayor of Kingstown, right? New show, Marshall, is coming out, Clay, just so that you know, March 1st, Marshall, which is, the son doing his thing for Yellowstone. The Paramount Plus has really become like regular TV, and because they show football, they show baseball, they show all the different sports too. Same thing with Netflix. Netflix really got involved with live sports and heavily invested into the NFL. The Christmas game is with Netflix, right? So again, this is now ushering back what the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s did, which is free to access television for boxing. which then proves what our conversation has always been about, right? How many times, Raider Nation, have I had to hear you tell me, Angelo, boxing's dead, right? Boxing never died, guys. Boxing's been the most popular sport that every single human being can relate to for the last 100 years, right? The only thing that changed is, I want to say 2015, when Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather, at the height of it all, when it finally happened, it was 5 million pay-per-view buys at $100 a pay-per-view, which actually shows you how much people really wanted it. It's still a record that hasn't been broken to this day, the 5 million pay-per-view mark. But the pay-per-view era is gone. What we now have is the streaming service era, right? And in the streaming service era, to roll out 2026, the numbers have been great for Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez. The numbers are great for Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios that just happened. But Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua, 31 million, right? Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez, 47 million, right? Paramount Plus just hit 7 million households in the United States,
right,
for the weekend, the first weekend of Zuffa boxing and UFC 324 combined. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, people are watching combat sports. And if boxing wasn't the most seeked after sport to be a part of, then why would someone like Dana White, who was already wildly successful in the UFC, why would he want to double down so badly
100%.
that he just signed a $15 million fighter for one fight? Yeah.
One thing we know, Angelo, is that right now, as far as this conversation with Dana White and Turkey, these are well thought out people. They're not impulsive. And you can imagine that there's a plan that's been set down where each stage has been identified on what signals they're looking for from each stage before they move on to the next one, right? They're like, all right, this box got checked. It's time to do this. It's time to do this. There's a blueprint that they're following, that they're moving with, where they have some of the best minds in the space watching and operating off real-time data as this thing is rolling out. Dana White making this move with Conor Ben blows me away. What in the hell are you thinking about? $15 million for Conor. Is Conor Ben really worth that? And like I even talked to you about before, is this premature? Did they maybe move a little? Are they moving a little too fast? But the reality is, although I don't get it all the way, I'm not the one with the degrees in business and you know what I'm saying, rolling these things out. One thing I do have faith in is the ability of Dana White and Nick Khan and Turki Al-Sheikh to bring this thing full circle. This is very similar to the Terrence Crawford conversation. When people ask me about Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez, I tell everybody, if Terrence Crawford would it say right now he wants to fight David Benavidez in September, I'd be like, Terrence is going to win. Why? He's earned that.
Right.
His track record shows me that he's a well thought out person. He's not just jumping into a situation like that without a game plan and approach. I'm going to be looking forward to see that fight. I'm looking forward to see Terrence win this fight and show me all the different ways you can win a fight like this that I'm not even aware of, obviously. This is the same thing with Dana. Right. I don't know, but one thing I do know is what his track record says he's going to do. And because of that, I think the execs in the game see that as well. Like, they're like, man, I don't know. I've seen this 100 times, man. PBC tried to come in here and do this. They thought they were going to do this, that, that. They ain't make us money. Bob Arum, we just getting out of the game completely. We just don't see it. But Dana, for some reason, has caught their attention. And they're like, I don't know. But one thing I do know is this guy has a track record. And if he can make this work, we're back, baby. Like Mortimer and from Trading Places, like Mortimer, you know what I mean? Like they wipe the garbage off you. We're Mortimer. We're back. You know what I mean? And they're putting their faith in this. So yeah, we're gonna watch it. We're gonna pay attention to it. We know what the possibilities are. I don't know exactly what's gonna happen. Next step. But I can tell you, man, when you see, if you can read the writing on the wall, you see it. And Floyd Mayweather clearly sees it. He's back at it. He's ready to do something with Manny Pacquiao. There's an opportunity. Netflix sees it. I mean, let's just say Floyd's coming in for the money grab. He doesn't have to see what we're seeing or what Dana's seeing. But Netflix sees it. They're like, yeah, they're doubling down. They went from Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua. They're about to do Tyson Fury versus Magomedov, and now they want to get into this. They're ready to entertain Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. They're seeing that the space every time they're doing an event, the criteria, the bells are going off, right? Whatever they're trying to see, they see it and then some, and they're like, we're doubling down. We're doubling down. We want to be in the space, man. And that being said, this gives the platform. This brings networks back into boxing. This gives these up and coming fighters optimism about what their future is going to be on the sport. This gives fighters who are making a decision as to whether or not they're going to go through with this sport in a professional space, or whether they're going to go to football, whether they're going to go to something else. They're seeing, I can do something here. This right here is an opportunity. An opportunity brings the best out of a lot of people, whether it's investors, whether it's fighters, whether it's promoters, all the way across the board.
Right. No, and again, guys, remember that the very first real credit to Netflix live event was the Tom Brady roast, right? Nikki Glazer joking around, like that whole thing. But that's Netflix saying, oh, wow, live events do matter, and it does work. So then they started doubling. I mean, now they have Star Search on Netflix. That's a live event, right? And it's just going into that space. But them going into the NFL, they learned a lot about that. Then they really learned a lot about Mike Tyson, the Jake Paul card. And then, like you said, they doubled down on those events going into 2025. And in 2026, man, to start with the return of Tyson Fury versus Makhmudov, free to access on Netflix in April. And then they're rolling out in May, I believe it is, for Gina Carano versus Ronda Rousey. That's a 44-year-old former active MMA great versus the 39-year-old Hall of Famer, UFC Hall of Famer, and Ronda Rousey. Right. And that they're like, yeah, the numbers are moving that way. And that was just last week they announced that. And then this week, Netflix is announcing, hey, by the way, we're bringing you guys Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. I'm telling you, man, combat sports is something people really want to gravitate towards. That's
100%.
exactly why Dana White was able to get a network rights deal of $7.7 billion. That's $1.1 billion a year for 7 years, right? Just for the UFC, right? And now Netflix is like, oh my God, yeah, people do love combat sports. Well, boxing seems to be the one that everybody loves because, I don't know, man. I mean, Jake Paul really can't fight all that good, but everybody likes him.
Everybody likes the idea, but you got a lot of fans that are very intrigued with the sport now. And you got to give Jake Paul his respect in the conversation. 100%. You got to give all those fights that people thought were just for no reason, that they thought was a black eye on the sport. Actually wasn't. It was actually a facelift.
Or a money grab, right? It was just a money grab, right?
It was actually a facelift, right? It was actually, for the first time in a long time, building up some intrigue. When you got you had a lot of old boxing fans, you know what I mean, that were just, back in the day, those guys there weren't enough of those guys, clearly, right? As the networks got out of that. But now you got a new age group that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, with Ryan Garcia just doing what he did over the weekend. That's adding to it, man. It's just becoming more interesting. And it's becoming more of a good business investment again. And that's great for the sport, because the networks tapped out. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the networks tapped out of boxing, left boxing, didn't think boxing had a future in America like that no more. It was a UK thing. It was a Japan thing. It was a, you know what I mean? That's their thing. They got a fan base that will support it. But I think on the back end of Terrence Crawford doing what he did, Shakur Stevenson doing what he did with Teofimo Lopez, even Ryan Garcia right now doing what he just did with Mario Barrios, Jake Paul, what he did with Anthony Joshua, Mike Tyson. I can go down the list of all these like specific fights that were like milestones in the eyes of these investors. But here we are right now at this moment, to where we have to say, are the networks dial back in? Does everybody love boxing again? Did they ever go away from boxing? Did they always love boxing? Did they just want to see boxing do better? And in the front of the eyes of the fans that are out here, do they feel like boxing is doing better with the movement of the Dana Whites and Turkey Al-Sheikh and what they've been able to put together? It's really a great conversation, and it's a conversation that doesn't end here, right? It continues for the coming weeks as we see things start to roll out. Dana White starts to roll out more people that he's signing. Turkey starts to announce some cards. You know what I'm saying? This Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia situation, if that rolls out the right way, that the size and magnitude of that fight will bring another blast of fans who are going to be like, man, I love boxing. Did you see this? Did you see that? I mean, it's a great thing. It's a great time to be in the space, Angela.
Yeah, no, and we can't leave and end the show without saying thank you to Turkey Al-Sheikh, right? Because it did take the passion of a person who is a boxing nerd, a boxing fan, a boxing fanatic. But he happened to also be in charge of tourism and the state of bringing in eyes to Saudi Arabia, right? And with the help of the king and the prince, they were like, hey, we got a vision. 2030, we want everyone to feel safe about coming and visiting our country. And Riyadh season was always a thing. But if it wasn't for Turkey Al-Sheikh and Salah and all these PIF, all these group of investors coming into boxing heavy from 2023 all the way to now. I mean, Claymore, it's February 24th of 2026. It hasn't even been that long. And every week we're talking about boxing, bro. There's always something dropping about boxing, right? But now I think what we're trying to explain to everyone now, especially to our mainstream casual sports fans, listeners, is that 2026 has been us talking about boxing in the United States, right? I mean, United States is what we're now. Now that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, like all these young, the very fighters we've always said, why can't we walk into a Starbucks and have a conversation with anyone about these guys? And I think now we're starting to be able to walk into a Starbucks and people are going, hey, man, hey, Claymore, see that Ryan Garcia fight the other night? Or, and oh, man, did you see Zuffa boxing?
No, without a doubt, my kids, certain people hitting me up on text messages. Even my Instagram has become way more active. My Facebook, people are reaching out to me. Hey, man, what'd you think of this fight? Man, I really enjoyed this fight. You know what I mean? Are you hearing anything about what's going on with this Conor Benn situation? Are you here? People are becoming very intrigued with it. You can feel the energy changing and shifting in the room, but it is what it is, right? Shout out to everybody who tapped into this, man. I'm going to remind you guys, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, support this content right here. Tell us what you think about the topic. Tell us what you think about this segment, man. Support. Shout out to all my subscribers and all my supporters who are out there right now. Support this. I think this is a great movement here. It's the second episode in. It's Read the Ring. It's me, my guy, Angelo Reyes. I think we're going to do great things in the space. Until the next one, you guys already know what it is, man. It's your boy, Rain. It's that guy, Angelo Reyes. This is Read the Ring. And at this point, we out.